Well, it took longer than expected, but the restaurant chain Chipotle says it has finally gotten rid of all genetically modified ingredients. Annie Gasparro wrote the story. She joins us from Chicago with the details. Annie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. So let's talk about Chipotle, talk about GMO. Why does this matter?
Well, not a lot of restaurant chains have been able to make this kind of transition. Chipotle is by far the most significant one because it's so large and has such a huge fan base. And it's not easy to get rid of genetically modified organisms from your food when over 90% of the corn and soy grown in the U.S. are genetically modified. So you can imagine how hard it is to find enough supply of the non-GMO for a giant restaurant like Chipotle.
Right, and they said they were going to do this. I believe in your story, they said they were going to do this by the end of 2014. It's taken them a little longer. I would imagine part of that is because of what you were just saying. How far and wide did they have to go to find ingredients that were not GMO?
Well, you might remember if you ever frequent Chipotle that they've run into some shortages before. They've run out of beef. They've had issues with their pork suppliers. So Chipotle really works on maintaining this high standard of food quality, and that has made it difficult for them to source all sorts of ingredients. So that just indicates how difficult this is, and it's something that they phase in over a number of years, which obviously, you know, looking back to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they started planning on this, it's hard to predict how long exactly it will take. But they're not the only ones. Ben & Jerry's, it also took them a year or so longer than they had expected. Yeah.
Does this put pressure on their competitors to match this, or are we going to have to wait and see how this works out for them before? But what are other restaurant chains thinking? What are they looking at?
Well, other restaurant chains seem to be a few steps behind Chipotle, but McDonald's announced earlier this year that they are going to start using chicken that's free of antibiotics used in humans. So you see, and Chipotle has done that for quite some time. So you see chains like McDonald's, which have suffered because of these changing tastes in Americans, and they are following Chipotle. So it might be 2 years, 3 years down the road, but it definitely indicates that this is where fast food is going.
Do they expect a bottom line effect on this? I mean, it must have taken them a lot of time and effort and some amount of money to do this. Do they expect this to translate into sales?
Chipotle has been raising its prices to offset the impact of these more expensive, higher quality ingredients. So they will definitely continue to see that boost in their sales. But it also could mean more people start eating there. So, you know, it remains to be seen how consumers will react to this. Maybe there's a lot of people out there that haven't been eating fast food because of the prevalence of GMOs. So maybe now they're going to get a big boost from doing something like this.
Yeah. All right, Annie, great stuff. Thank you very much.